Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and today we're going to take our final look at Kabaya month with the one that just about every one of you voted on that you wanted to see, Jetfire. And for those of you who remember the original Jetfire, the Jetfire toy was one that Hasbro licensed from Bandai instead of Takara. So, naturally, this one was going to come out quite differently than his original counterpart, due to the fact that the original Jetfire toy, not only being licensed from Bandai, a competing toy company, it was also for a competing series, as Jetfire's alternate mode was clearly becoming one of the Veritech fighters featured in the Robotech cartoon series that was airing at the same time. So, immediately, as you can see, this version of Jetfire is radically different and bears very little to no resemblance to a Veritech. Instead of having the single large rifle, he now has a pair of wrist-mounted guns, plus his enhanced booster engines also have guns that form shoulder cannons. Which is just saw one just wobbled loose on me here. Pick that up off the floor and remount it. There we go, just like that. But we have a nice little bonus. Yeah, the whole backpack likes to come off easy. That's a small flaw in this figure, folks. The posts really aren't that long to hold that in, so we'll just set that aside. But there is an added bonus to this figurine. This figure is dual-faced. So if you turn it around all the way, you have a different face. For those of you who are fans of the cartoon series, this is Skyfire's face. So you can have it as either to resemble the Generation 1 toy or his cartoon counterpart, which many of us are likely more familiar with due to him being on the show in Jetfire's place. So that is quite a bonus feature here. Now, for articulation on this toy, we'll take a look at what he's got. You can rotate the arms all the way around. The wings get in the way to prevent it from going full rotation. And you can bend his arms at the elbows. And down here on his legs, you can spread his legs out about so far. And that's about it. You can only do a slight bend at the knee, and it's really not worth it. So, that's how he is. Let's reattach the back piece. And let's bring up the original Jetfire toy for comparison and see how it looks. Okay, we brought in Jetfire here, and he has all of his booster armor attached as well. Jetfire's not holding his rifle because at the time I could not find it, so I wasn't going to keep searching for it. But as we already pointed out, he carried a single rifle, whereas this Kabaya one has two wrist-mounted rifles, so it's really not necessary to bring it out. Of course, going along with it, a lot more of the differences are clearly noticeable, because it's obvious they don't even become the same airplane. Of course, the small Kabaya one has guns on the boosted engines. The original toy does not have that. But the original toy still beats him on articulation. So he does have that going for it. But all in all, given what they had, the restrictions that had to be done to bring this Kabaya figure out, because obviously they could not make him look like this, no matter what. And I'm sure they had to pull a few strings with Takara to allow it to have a head style like that, and even at that, it still doesn't quite resemble Jetfire's. You know, it's nowhere near shaped the same, but it was done more to pay homage to where it came from. But I strongly suspect they had to pull a few strings with them to get them to allow the okay on making this small toy. Alright, let's get ready and do the next thing. Transform him. Alright, transforming this guy requires a fair amount of disassembly to him, so he is a pain to do this with. First thing, of course, is we're going to remove the backpack. And of course, straighten the guns out and then put it aside out of the way. The next thing we have to remove as well is the arms. You'll also be removing the lower portion of his legs. As we see a leg piece make a run for the floor. There we go. And you also have to remove everything on his chest, including these small pieces to the side. And the central chest itself. Which I can tell you is a pain to do. There we go. Got it loose. Alrighty. And then basically they recommend, for getting the body ready, to rotate the head so that Skyfire's face is facing upwards. And of course, you can go ahead and also fold the wings on back. They recommend that on the arms, you take the arms and just rotate the guns so they're pointing the opposite direction. And you can get his legs ready by folding closed the exhaust pieces on the feet. Now, you bring him back up here, face up like this. You'll reattach the legs, move the wings out of the way, with the knee part facing downward, and you're going to clip them to these upper holes in the hip. I recommend you clip them in somewhat loosely, because it's going to attach on both sides of the leg. It'll be on the top and the bottom. Don't push it in too far, because then it'll be a pain in the butt, literally, to get it off, should you want to transform him back. Then you can get the wings down and in position. You'll take the chest piece. You're going to pop this blue piece out. You'll take the two small pieces that you took off the side of the chest and insert them as the nose of the plane. Then you'll attach the whole thing, snapping it onto the antenna on Jetfire's head. And this blue piece you'll connect right behind it into the open slot, like so. And then you'll reattach the arms at the shoulders and just have them point straight back. And then lastly, for the final touch, You'll mount the backpack onto the leg portion, since it holds the tail wings. This is where you have to get kind of funky with it, because the legs aren't in full distance. Makes it a bear to attach it, but you want to leave some give because, as I stated earlier, he is a pain to transform due to his design. And there we have it. This is the Kabaya Jetfire's alternate mode. Kind of impressive looking. And he does swoosh pretty good for an airplane. You'd want this to be able to. There is one of Starscream available, so you would definitely want to be able to have them dogfight, so that does come in handy that he can swoosh just as easily. Now, how does he look in comparison to the original Jetfire in his alternate mode? Well, here it is. Move it so he gets right in front of him there. As you can see, it's a considerably noticeable difference, but again, that's also due to licensing issues. But I suppose if you really wanted to also make them look somewhat alike, you can always attach the boosters here onto this one. As an optional means of play. If we attach them correctly, that is. There we go, get it in back end first, then the front end. Landing gears out. There we go. And there, they kind of bear something of more resemblance to each other, but again, the small one kind of falls a little flat, but not too terribly. The additional guns on the side are a nice touch. We can give it credit for that. Having the cannons on the booster rockets definitely lets you have a difference between the two toys. All in all, it's not too horrendous. I mean, certainly there are worse things, but this isn't too terribly bad. Alright, now that we got him back together all in one piece, let's take a look here at his box. As you can see, the box heavily promotes him as the Skyfire version. So like I said, it was probably the easiest way for them to get away with it. Over here on the side, you see, like we saw in the Ultra Magnus box, they got Ultra Magnus and Prowl, and then again, there's Jetfire, or Skyfire, however you want to call it. And then here over to the back side. As you can see, he was a pretty complicated assembly, so there was a lot going into him. And of course, right here they have the reveal and the additional stickers that you can put on him to make him Jetfire. Apparently you should have the antenna removed, but again, like with the smokestacks on Ultra Magnus, you really don't want to remove those unless you have to, because there's a tendency they will get lost in the carpet and then eaten by your vacuum cleaner. Or get stepped on. And of course, down here at the bottom, we got the transformation instructions. Relatively simple, given the complex assembly that he is. Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of this toy? This one, in reality, is a mixed bag, folks. That I've got to be honest with you. I don't know if it's just my example of him, but then again, I assembled him brand new, so this could be an issue with all of them out there. But the quality on this one really just isn't as there as it is on many of the others. I mean, this one I have a lot of trouble with the stickers staying on him. I mean, some of them there on the head keep coming up loose on the side. This big one here on the back never wants to stay down. That may have fixed it only temporarily. I'm also not a major fan of the disassembly of him. I think this could have or should have been designed a little bit better. I mean, granted, I know they were trying to avoid copying anything of the Bandai toy to avoid any potential lawsuits or complaints and gripes about it, but some of this should have been redesigned to make it a little easier. Especially the biggest problem that I have with it is for the attachments here on the legs. As you can see, some of the fighting I've had to do to get the legs off, they are kind of tearing up the stickers on his thighs. So it's kind of that. Probably should have been done as white plastic instead of blue plastic with a white sticker, because it's getting torn up every time you transform him. So this one I would probably recommend, if you want, have multiples of it and just never transform him, so that way it's never going to be an issue for you. Because of those issues is why I'm basically going to put this toy in the middle tier. I mean, even with all of its faults, it does have some good in it that makes it a redeeming piece, but it'll never be top tier due to how severe the flaws are with it. For redemption purposes, it is a cheaper version of Jetfire, because Jetfire is a very expensive and very difficult transformer to find. Well, maybe not very difficult, but he is one of the more complicated ones to find and acquire completely. And you add the fact that you can rotate the head around, and you've got Skyfire, the guy from the cartoon. I mean, neither one of them are going to be accurate to their source material, and that's livable with, unless you're a real die-hard purist that wants it to be an exact match. But in this case, I think it works out better that it doesn't tie itself too tightly to either of its source material. This way it can pay homage to where it came from and how it came to be this toy. So I think in the long run that speaks more volumes to the craftsman that made this toy, because they had to obviously work with a lot of constraints, and while it's not perfect, it certainly does respect the history of the Transformers, and that is something that all of us as fans can certainly appreciate. So once again, I would say this is a middle tier toy. And this concludes my review of the Kabaya version of Jetfire, or Skyfire. And this concludes Kabaya Review Month as well. I certainly want to thank all of my viewers and fans out there for participating in the Kabaya poll back in January, and who have continued to support this channel. If you liked the video, please, again, leave a thumbs up here on YouTube. Don't forget as well, for any new viewers, hit that subscribe button down below and join up with the rest of us. Please also consider sharing your thoughts about Jetfire or Skyfire in the comments section down below. This is Sparks to 1701 saying I will catch you all later.